More Kevin Durant news. We love to hear it. Kevin Durant has found his way to make the media every single day this summer, and it's been honestly pretty tiring at this point. Like, I just want him to be traded. I want this whole thing to be over with. I want the NBA to move on from a Kevin Durant trade. That's my rant. So, recently Kevin Durant updated his trade request to Philadelphia after the teams like the Suns, the Pelicans, and the Heat have shown little to no interest in the trading for him. And this kind of came out of nowhere, in my opinion, because it seems like Philadelphia star James Harden and Kevin Durant were beefing during their time in Brooklyn. I mean, James Harden did kind of quit on the team, and Kevin Durant forced the Nets to trade all their young players and future draft picks for him, and for James Harden to walk out the door. I feel like Kevin Durant felt a little stab in the back, but maybe not. However, images of James Harden and Kevin Durant have surfaced that they've been training together, hanging out together. And now it appears they put their differences aside, and now Kevin Durant wants to go play in Philly alongside James Harden and Joel Embiid. And not to mention, Kevin Durant is a huge fan of Joel Embiid. He's talked about him nonstop, and I think that would be a terrific duo in the Eastern Conference to potentially win a championship. As of right now, August 14th, the only other team that have shown real interest in trading for Kevin Durant is the Boston Celtics, with a package sent around Jaylen Brown. However, the Celtics are not willing to throw in Marcus Smart and future draft capital. I think Marcus Smart is not the focal point of the Nets. I think that draft capital is what they really want. So I think if Philly throws in more draft capital, they could potentially sway them into trading for Kevin Durant. So now the big question is, what would Philly have to give up for Kevin Durant? And we all know it's not going to be James Harden or Joel Embiid. So do they have enough to pull off a trade for Kevin Durant to end the Nets saga? And ultimately, would this be a good idea for Philly to do it? So let's hop into the trade package. So obviously we know what Philadelphia is getting. They're getting Kevin Durant. And for the Brooklyn Nets side, they're getting Tobias Harris, Shake Milton, Matisse Thybulle, Tyrese Maxey, and 4 first-round picks, one in 2024, 2026, 2028, and 2029. Now, the 2028, 2029, they're going to have to defer that to another year because of the Steven rule. You can't trade a back-to-back draft pick for whatever reason. They allow them to do it on here, so I assume there's some way to get around it to where they'll get a 2020 or 2030 first-round pick. I'm not really sure, but this system let me do it, so I'm just going to go with it. So first, let's start with the players. So we got Tobias Harris. Now, I'm sure the Nets don't really want Tobias Harris, but he has to be in here for contract purposes. The only reason why I think they want to keep Tobias is that if they trade Kevin Durant, they keep Kyrie for a year, and then they just pair Kyrie with Tobias and Ben Simmons in the group that they would have minus Kevin Durant. Next, we have Shake Milton, a real nice second, third string guard. He had a great rookie campaign. He's kind of fallen off since then. But I feel like the reason he's fallen off is because Tyrese Maxey has emerged, and then they traded for James Harden. So the ball handling point guard minutes are really low in Philadelphia outside of those two. But all the way, Shake Milton is still a very young player that can give you good minutes and turn into a nice player for you. Next, we have Matisse Thybulle. We all know he can't shoot beyond 5 feet. But just be another player like them on the Nets. But he brings terrific perimeter defense, something that the Nets have been lacking. And not to mention that he is young. Him developing a three-point shot is very up in the air. If you look at his mechanics, I don't know if that could be fixable, but maybe. There are some terrific NBA shooting coaches out there, especially if Steve Nash stays over there in Brooklyn. Hopefully he can teach this boy how to shoot. And then the biggest piece and the most exciting piece of the trade is Tyrese Maxey. Now, in my personal opinion, I think Tyrese Maxey can be an all-star point guard for many years. He's got the work ethic, he's got the game, he's a great three-point shooter, great finisher, great ball handler, can facilitate a little bit, still needs to work on that, but he's a great player. I think he can be an all-star, like I said before, and I think Brooklyn should strongly consider this because Maxey's going to be that good, in my opinion. And now let's move on to the draft capital. So the first pick's 2024. I don't really see that pick being worth a whole lot because you're still going to have Kevin Durant, you're still going to have James Harden, you're still going to have Joel Embiid. They're all going to be relatively still good, in my opinion. So that's kind of a throwaway trade, but it's just another asset the Nets can use. Now we move on to 2026. And 2026 is where it starts to get interesting because if you look at the ages of the star players on the team, so in 2026, Kevin Durant will be 37. That'll bring him to the end of his contract. And James Harden will be 36, and Embiid will be 32. Kevin Durant will still be giving you buckets at 37. James Harden, I don't know if he's going to be a starter level player at 36. He's already digressing. We'll just have to see what this season looks like for him. If he picks it back up, maybe he extends his career a little longer. but I don't see James Harden being a deciding factor on any basketball team at the age of 36. And Embiid will be 32. That's still relatively young, but for a big man that's getting up there in age and the amount of miles he tracks every single season, Embiid could be on his way down by his early 30s. And that's where it gets interesting with these draft picks, because you go all in for these three players. You can potentially win a couple championships out of the deal, but you could end up falling off towards the end because you also are giving up a 2028 first round pick, and none of those players are going to be active by then, I can almost guarantee, except for maybe Joel Embiid. And then 2029 is going to be, none of them players are going to be active, I don't think. So we get 2028 draft pick. Embiid could still be on the team. I don't think Durant and Harden would play basketball anymore, at least on the NBA level. But Embiid will be like 34, big man. He might not be contributing that much. And then we get to 2029, same thing. The Philadelphia team may not be that good. So in terms of the Nets' perspective, I think they should make this trade to look towards the future with these draft picks. But for Philly, it's a very interesting question because you do give up a lot, and I just explained on how these picks could be very valuable to them. But you also get Kevin Durant, and if you pair James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Joel Embiid together, I think you got yourself a championship team, and you should definitely do that to go all in, because I don't see him as a top 5 contender this season, and then next season we don't know what's going to happen. There's still going to be a lot of good teams out there. I just think there are teams that are set up to win championships over the next 3 to 4 years better than Philadelphia is, so that's why I think this trade is important for them to consider. And then for Brooklyn, I think they should just take this trade, move on, trade Kyrie, do what you got to do, rebuild the roster, make Brooklyn fun again. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.